ushuru. Tujitegemee.
We asked the children, how many of you brushed this morning? And this little boy, his hand didn't go up. And I said, well, why didn't you brush this morning? He said, my brother was using the toothbrush. If I'd waited for him, I would have been late for school. I'm sorry, I get a bit emotional when it comes to that. To be able to change a child's life, to be able to bring back that confidence about their smile, for me, is phenomenal.
The Public Service Superannuation Scheme, PSSS, established under the Public Service Superannuation Scheme Act in 2012, is a defined contributory scheme designed to cater to you, the dedicated civil servants, teachers, and disciplined services personnel. Since its inception on January 1st, 2021, the PSSS has made remarkable progress in terms of operational efficiency and governance structures, ensuring that your retirement benefits are managed responsibly and securely. We are thrilled to announce that the second annual general meeting will be held on 7th June 2024. The chief guest will be the Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, Mr. Felix Koskei. Mark your calendars and join us for the second PSSS AGM on Friday, 7th June 2024 from 8 a.m. live on KBC TV, and be a part of this historic event as we present the financial statements to our valued scheme members. This annual general meeting is an excellent opportunity for you to learn more about the performance and growth of your pension fund. You'll gain valuable insights into how your contributions are being managed and invested for your future. We encourage you to attend the AGM virtually and actively participate in the discussions, ask questions, and share your thoughts. Your voice matters, and this is your chance to shape the future of the Public Service Superannuation Scheme. For more details and to confirm your attendance, please visit our website at www.psss.go.ke. PSSS, empowering futures.
Kikohozi cha muda wowote, kutokwa na jasho kwa wingi usiku, uchungu kwenye kifua, afya kudhoofika, tafuta matibabu. Labda ni TB ni ugonjwa wa kweli. Ukipimwa matibabu yapo utapona. Daktari kushauri tumia dawa kwa nidhamu. Elimu tupashane tupige vita TB. Mwa TB waishi poa.
Nilianza kuendesha boda miaka michache iliyopita ili kuhudumia familia yangu. Sio kazi rahisi, lakini inaweka chakula mezani. Wakati huo nilifikiria siwezi kushindwa. Ningeendesha boda kwa kasi, kukwepa na kuvuka barabara ovyo ovyo. Ningefanya chochote ili kufika napokwenda haraka. Lakini siku moja nilikuwa hospitalini kwa miezi 3. Kosa moja karibu liondoe kila kitu. Mwaka moja baada ya kutoka hospitalini, nilihudhuria mafunzo ya jinsi ya kuendesha boda kwa usalama.
Boda ni life, lakini life si kitu bila usalama. Zingatia kanuni za trafiki. Hakikisha unavaa helmet na reflector jacket wakati wote.
Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na NTSA kwa ushirikiano na European Union.
Good evening, welcome to Prime Edition. I am Cyhthia Nyamai. Now, tonight, Raila Odinga receives the resolution of the Limuru 3. We will be telling you more about that. And in business, we have the young and industrious. And in studio, I do have guests who will be talking about the financial bill. And in sports, Karen Kibet is back. We do have so much for you this evening. But first, let's have the highlights.
One man, one vote, one shilling. I agree totally. I know that it may not be very popular in some quarters, but let us have this conversation.
Raila Odinga receives resolutions of the Limuru 3 conference, endorses one man, one vote, one shilling agenda. Recipients of the lion's share in the next financial year's budget unveiled ahead of official presentation next week. And Ministry of Education launches a 5 trillion shilling strategic plan that caters for recruitment of 116,000 primary school teachers in the next 5 years. Our sign language interpreter is Brian Muraru. And remember, we would love to hear from you. You can send us your comments and feedback on KBC Channel 1 on our social media pages. That's on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Now, Azimio la Umoja leader Raila Odinga has endorsed the one man, one vote, one shilling agenda adopted by the Limuru 3 meeting. While receiving a copy of the resolutions from Jubilee Party leaders, the former Prime Minister said the revenue sharing formula will ensure equity in distribution of the national resources. Giverson Maina has the story for you.
The controversial one man, one vote, one shilling revenue sharing formula adopted by the Limuru 3 meeting last month received a boosting Thursday after endorsement by Azimio la Umoja One Kenya leader Raila Odinga.
One man, one vote, one shilling. I agree totally with this. I'm not never populist. I always talk with my mind openly. I know that it may not be very popular in some quarters, but let us have this conversation.
The opposition leader said unlike the current formula that discriminates, for example, on the sharing of bursaries, population-based approach would ensure equity in sharing of the national resources across all the regions.
It cannot be right that some children should get more money as for bursary than other children in other parts of the country. And I think this is a conversation which, if we have it openly, in a open dialogue, we'll be able to convince majority of our people that this is the right way to go.
While defending the principle, Jubilee Party leaders, led by Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni, said the move will not disadvantage other regions, but will ensure populated regions get their fair share of the national cake.
It is not for us to take from somebody so that it comes to us. No. It is for us to ask from the national government that which they are holding on to and refusing to let come to the people. Wale ambao wanapata waendelee kupata yao, lakini sisi pia tupatiwe na national government.
One person, one shilling, one vote. The answer to it is to implement devolution fully and to fund devolution fully.
The approach has in the recent past received criticism from across the political divide for being perceived as discriminatory to areas with less population. Giverson Maina, Prime Edition.
Teacher Service Commission, Education, Roads and Defence sectors have received the highest allocation in the estimate of recurrent and development expenditure for the 2024-2025 financial year. National Assembly on Thursday considered the estimates ahead of the budget reading next week as the lawmakers raised concern over low allocations on devolved functions such as health.
Members of the National Assembly on Thursday spent the better part of the afternoon considering the estimates of monies to be supplied to the executive, ministries and departments for the recurrent and development expenditure for the next financial year.
We are allocating money to defense, but they should be prudent enough as a State Department to be fair to every region and every constituency, even when they are doing recruitment.
The Teacher Service Commission has a vote of 358.21 billion shillings, with the state departments for roads and higher education and the Ministry of Defence allocated 199.3 billion, 127.9 billion shillings and 173 billion shillings respectively.
About 45,000 children, or rather learners, who have been admitted in the national universities have not been able to afford to report to the universities. And therefore, these are the many children or learners that are going to revert into TVET institutions.
The amount of money actually given to this department is not quite enough, noting that we have capitation issues. We have to construct TTIs and equip in every constituency. And on that note, Madam Chair, I want to say that as much as you have allocated $1 billion, there is still need a lot to allocate this department.
Currently, the education sector is the #1 department that we have allocated most of the money. 27% of the entire national government expenditure is going to the education sector.
MPs raised concerns on the allocation for state developments for medical services and public health and professional standards at 102.9 billion shillings and 28 billion shillings respectively, saying health is a devolved function.
We are claiming here as a country that health is a devolved function. Why is this money being kept in Nairobi to do what? When you know that health is a devolved function, 30 billion shillings is enough to run the Ministry of Medical Services, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, if this is money for the big men and women of Nairobi, then let us just agree that Parliament is passing this money for the big boys.
The last time the Ministry of Health has done infrastructure developments or something in the counties, I don't even remember, so before devolution. So why will this money be at the headquarters when we know that health services are also devolved?
The State Department for Immigration, Internal Security, Water and Sanitation have a vote of 14.9 billion shillings, 35.8 billion shillings and 52.4 billion shillings respectively. For Prime Edition, I'm Gladys Mungai.
Thank you, Gladys, for that report. Residents of Kamalogon, Pokot South in West Pokot County have demonstrated over insecurity after bandits stole sheep and cows on Thursday morning. The incident comes just a month after a 7-year-old girl was shot and killed by bandits.
Residents of Kamalogon, Pokot South in West Pokot County have demonstrated their anger by blocking the Kapsangar-Kamelei road, paralyzing business along the busy road that connects West Pokot and Elgeyo-Marakwet counties.
Mwezi moja imepita, eneo hili imeipiwa ng'ombe. Imeipa ng'ombe na iwezi ikarejeshwa.
Naomba tu serikali aone sisi na asaidie sisi.
Pokot South Deputy County Commissioner David Bowen said more security personnel have been deployed along the border to pursue the bandits and recover the stolen livestock.
Nimeongea na County Commissioner na amesema tutafute KPR 15 tukuje tufanyie vetting kesho na tutafute tunduki tuwapatie wakae na askari wa astu watima pale.
Kamalogon member of the County Assembly Samuel Korinyang condemned the incident, calling on Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki to move with speed and deploy more security officers to help curb banditry activities.
The government plans to employ 116,000 primary school teachers on both permanent and contractual terms. Another 2,000 technical trainers and instructors will also be recruited in the next 5 years. This, according to the National Education Sector's Strategic Plan 2023-2027 launched today, whose implementation is estimated to cost 5.02 trillion shillings.
The Ministry of Education has unveiled its 2023-2027 strategic plan aimed at expanding access to quality education, enhance equity, elevate education excellence, and strengthening governance and accountability.
I'm happy to announce that the plan has incorporated the recommendations of the Presidential Working Party on education reforms that were contained in the report handed over to His Excellency the President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, last year in August.
The government says this can only be achieved by strengthening some of the loopholes, like inadequate classrooms and teachers.
During first term, we gave the first batch of 25%, and another 25% was also given at the end of the term, making a total of 50%. So what we are going to disperse this particular month is another 30%.
According to the education roadmap, the ministry intends to employ 116,000 primary school teachers, construct 16,000 classrooms for junior secondary schools by December 2024, and provide meals for 6 million learners.
One of our critical focus will be our foundational learning. How do we ensure that our children are properly anchored? Because it is said, if we invest well in foundational learning, then we reduce the cost of future investment by up to 15%.
And now wish to call upon all of us, especially from myself, those that I am working with, to put our best foot forward in ensuring that what we have put in this document is actually actualized.
Within the 5 years period, 2,000 technical trainers will be recruited while expanding open universities and research institutes. Speaking during the launch held at Kenya School of Government, Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu said that the 5 years plan will cost 5.02 trillion shillings, with the government promising to cough 3.47 trillion shillings and the ministry outsourcing the deficit from development partners.
To mobilize the requisite resource requirements. To this end, we will seek support from government, development partners, private sector investments, and community contributions.
Kasi Chanamasha, Prime Edition.
The government needs 108 billion shillings to implement reforms in the National Police Service, Kenya Prison Service and National Youth Service. Speaking while addressing development partners during a roundtable to brief them on the status of reform execution in Nairobi, Internal Security and National Administration Principal Secretary Dr. Raymond Omolo said the reforms will be implemented in 4 years, 2024 to 2028, in line with a strategic framework guiding the process.
A number of these reforms are already been taken care of. First, I've mentioned that there are some reforms that only requires administrative action, and the relevant institutions are already dealing with those. So, for example, when you look at what administrative reforms are being done in the National Police Service, the IG and the team have already instituted some of those. A number of them could be issues to do with transfers, to do with the issues of working out on the mechanics, on the instruments for human resource. We've had already ongoing conversations with the salaries and remuneration, which directly addresses the issues around welfare and career progression. And there are issues around the modernization of the services.
Religious and community leaders have been urged to reinvigorate civic education efforts at the community level in the war against violent extremism. This was overriding call during the second round of a public engagement drive by the National Counter-Terrorism Center on a revised strategy to counter violent extremism in the country, as Wycliffe Okech now reports.
To be any individual. The second round of the public engagement exercise by the National Counter-Terrorism Center seeks to validate the counter-terrorism draft document by incorporating more public views on a robust national strategy to counter violent extremism in the country. Having the will and the wish. And as the validation process continues, Community and religious leaders are equally being called upon to upscale civic education efforts at the community level.
So one of them is education. This is the greatest strategy that we must and we have always advocated for, because many of our people do not know what violent extremism is.
Nyanza Regional Commissioner Flora Moroa says advancement of technology presents yet another challenging frontier on matters violent extremism, especially for the Kenyan youth, urging parents to guide their children accordingly.
All is not lost in the monitoring. It is possible, and it is through education we are able to ensure that our youth are using the internet for the right things.
The stakeholders also called for a whole-of-society approach to countering violent extremism for the security of the country.
Bunduki na uniform ya askari haitatosha kama sisi wenyewe hatudumishi ule usalama kwenye maeneo yetu. Askari ni wachache kuliko wananchi. Kwa hiyo wananchi kwanza wadumishe usalama na wasaidie askari katika kudumisha usalama.
We want to change the civic education to civic engagement. Any person we share with, go and educate others on our behalf.
For Prime Edition, I am Wycliffe Okech.
The National Assembly Public Accounts Committee now wants the State Department of Correctional Services to provide a roadmap towards acquiring title deeds for 102 parcels of prison land that have no ownership documents. Correctional Services Principal Secretary Salome Muhia informed the MPs that at least 4,000 acres of prison land had been encroached on, while some parcels had 36 active cases in court. The MPs, however, are concerned over the delay by the Prisons Department to reclaim the Nakuru land from the encroachers, even after winning the case in court.
The State Department of Correctional Services is engaging the Ministry of Lands in a bid to secure ownership documents for at least 100 parcels of prison land. PS Salome Muhia, while appearing before the National Assembly Watchdog Committee, revealed that at least 4,000 acres of prison land had been encroached on by illegal settlers.
To date, approximately 2,321 acres of Kitale Main Prison on farmland Kapkoi/Mabonde Block 1 ex-prison has been illegally acquired by private individuals.
You must tell us the strategy, because now you need a clear roadmap.
As we speak now, pursuant to the presidential directive of reclaiming all our Kitale land, the surveyor and the EACC are on the ground. An interministerial committee was actually set up pursuant to that directive in January.
Out of 117 parcels of land owned by prisons, only 15 have ownership documents. MPs queried why the Prisons Department had not reclaimed their Nakuru land even after winning the case in court.
Do you get the impression that part of the reason why we are not resolving these disputes may be because some of the officers within the correctional facilities, within the Prisons Department and in government are probably culpable?
We have already taken action of commencing eviction proceedings, and it's a work in progress.
The Watchdog Committee has also taken issue with inadequacies in accounts management in the various correctional facilities that led to failure in remitting payee with KRA for 8 years, thereby attracting a penalty of 138 million shillings.
The State Department subsequently paid the principal amount of Kenya shillings 126,983,027 and wrote to KRA for waiver of the penalties and interest amounting to Kenya shillings 138,348,799 as per reference letter indicated therein.
It is not believable that from 30th June to 30th September, the station had not submitted their accounts.
PS Muhia requested 2 months to negotiate with the Kenya Revenue Authority to reconsider a waiver of the penalties. Gishoki Washira, Prime Edition.
The government has begun the distribution of 8 million doses of childhood vaccines and assured that most public hospitals will have the stocks by Monday next week. Elsewhere, a section of residents in Ruaraka area who are victims of the demolition of structures on riparian land are appealing to the government to come to their aid. Details on this and more stories in our county news roundup.
Speaking at the Kitengela Central Vaccines Store in Kajiado County, Medical Services Principal Secretary Hari Kimtai said the vaccines worth 1.25 billion shillings were procured by the Ministry of Health to address the recent vaccine stockouts across the country.
I'm here to receive them officially and to assure the country that there are adequate vaccines for our children. Starting on Monday, they should take the children for vaccination. I have ordered our team here to start the distribution effective from tomorrow. Over the weekend and on Monday, all the facilities will be equipped with the vaccines, ready to commence vaccination of our children.
In Nairobi County, residents of Lakisama in Ruaraka area whose houses were demolished for occupying riparian land are pleading with the government to consider giving alternative shelter.
Watu wanaathirika sana kwa sababu hata mita zenye zinapimwa zenye ndefu kuliko zenye tulikuwa tunatarajia, na watu wanahama na wajui mali wanaenda. Sisi tungeomba kama rais anatusikia, hii dhuluma iwache kuendelea hivi. Watu wanadhulumika na watu wanaumia.
Elsewhere, the Elderly Persons Defender Organization has urged the National Assembly to debate and pass the 2024 Older Persons Bill.
Is that we are looking at the document entirely, cross by cross, sentence by sentence, to see that it accommodates the spirit and will of the people of Kenya.
The bill seeks to safeguard the rights of older persons to health, participation and representation. In Homa Bay, men and boys are being engaged in the fight against the triple threat of HIV and AIDS infections, teen pregnancies, and sexual and gender-based violence. This approach aims to tackle these interconnected challenges that significantly impact the lives and futures of young people.
As we continued a girls' mentorship program since 2014, the question was always, where are the boys? So this year, we began a boys' mentorship camp. The Governor's Boys Mentorship Camp.
In marking the World Environmental Day, Secretary General of Kenya Union of Special Needy Teachers, James Torome, joined pupils of Entropoti Primary Schools in a tree planting exercise.
Tumeweza kupanda miti kadhaa. Kwa hivyo tunauliza wananchi wote katika Jamhuri ya Kenya waendelee kupanda miti. Na sio miti tu, ikiwezekana waweze kupanda miti ambayo ni ya matunda, ambao hawa watoto wataweza kuwa wakikula hayo matunda.
On crime, a 70-year-old woman from Bukayo West Ward, Matayos constituency, Busia County, is counting losses after thieves raided her home and stole her cow. Area residents said cases of cattle theft in the region have risen.
Kwa serikali, naomba serikali inisaidie, ingilie kati. Tujue hawa vijana ni wakina nani wameamuka tu kuiba mang'ombe za watu na kuchinjia msituni, kupepa nyama, kila kitu yote inapepwa.
For Prime Edition, I'm Wahumongai.
Well, we still have the pre-budget analysis coming up for you shortly, but first, let's have our break.
Next. Employers urge to establish platforms to nurture students' innovations. Defending champions Faith Kipyegon and Emmanuel Korir to feature at the Olympic Game trials next week.
With heavy rainfall sweeping across the nation, the Ministry of Health, county governments and partners are urging you to take critical precautions. Flooded rivers, landslides and the risk of water-related diseases like cholera, typhoid, malaria and dengue fever are on the rise. Here's what you need to do. 1. If you're in flatlands or landslide-prone areas, move to safer grounds immediately. 2. Maintain personal hygiene, treat water, wash hands, and use latrines properly. 3. Protect against mosquito bites with insecticide-treated nets. 4. Seek immediate medical attention for any health concerns. And 5. Call emergency helplines 719 or 0729 471414 or 0732 353535. Remember, safety comes first. Respiratory and waterborne illnesses are increasing due to the cold weather and flooding. Use treated water and seek medical help promptly if needed. Despite the challenges, healthcare services, including immunizations and chronic disease management, remain available. Be vigilant about food safety to avoid illnesses like cholera and typhoid. Properly handle and store food and seek help if necessary. Manage waste responsibly to prevent environmental harm. Report any issues to local authorities promptly. For more information and support, dial *719#. Stay informed, stay safe. Together we can weather this storm. This message has been brought to you by the Ministry of Health, UNICEF, and other partners.
Kikohozi cha muda wowote, kutokwa na jasho kwa wingi usiku, uchungu kwenye kifua, afya kudhoofika, tafuta matibabu.
Si tumekula kiapo? Yes. Ningekuwa kweli mimi mtu kwenda nikitangaza. Si ningekuwa nimetangaza kuhusu bwana yako. Mimi ndio nilikuambukisha hiyo ugonjwa.
Si wewe, lakini kwa nini utangaze? Kwa why should you?
Nani alipelekea bibi yake ugonjwa?
Tibiwa ishi poa.
Nilianza kuendesha boda miaka michache iliyopita ili kuhudumia familia yangu. Sio kazi rahisi, lakini inaweka chakula mezani. Wakati huo nilifikiria siwezi kushindwa. Ningeendesha boda kwa kasi, kukwepa na kuvuka barabara ovyo ovyo. Ningefanya chochote ili kufika napokwenda haraka. Lakini siku moja nilikuwa hospitalini kwa miezi 3. Kosa moja karibu liondoe kila kitu. Mwaka moja baada ya kutoka hospitalini, nilihudhuria mafunzo ya jinsi ya kuendesha boda kwa usalama. Boda ni life, lakini life si kitu bila usalama. Zingatia kanuni za trafiki. Hakikisha unavaa helmet na reflector jacket wakati wote.
Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na NTSA kwa ushirikiano na European Union.
Asanteni sana kwa kuwezesha Lotomoto kuwafikia wengi wasiojiweza kupitia *570#. Hapo umewafuta wengi machozi, umewaelimisha, umewapa makao, umewapa lishe na umewapa matibabu kwa namna tofauti. Asanteni.
Asanteni. Asanteni sana.
Na kwako wewe mchezaji wa Lotomoto, unajipa fursa ya kujishindia Probox nayo. Na kama Probox haikufai na umejishindia, tunakupa taslim 750,000 Kenyan shillings na mshindi namtangaza 30th of June. Na mwezi wa July 28th namtangaza mshindi wa Demio nayo. Na kama utaki na umeshinda, wacha gari, chukua chapa 750,000 Kenyan shillings kwenye *570#. Wewe si mshindi tu, wewe ni tegemeo kubwa. Tusaidie na tushinde!
The Public Service Superannuation Scheme, PSSS, is a defined contributory scheme that ensures that your retirement benefits are managed responsibly and securely. The scheme will hold its second annual general meeting on Friday, 7th June 2024 from 8 a.m. Members who will not have been nominated to attend the physical meeting can follow the event live on KBC TV and online through the scheme's social media platforms. Follow the historic event and witness the presentation of PSSS financial statements, and also to learn more about the performance and growth of your pension fund. For details, visit www.psss.go.ke. The Public Service Superannuation Scheme, empowering futures.
Welcome back. It's now time for business. The National Government Constituency Development Fund is set for increased budgetary allocation of 62.9 billion shillings based on the draft 2024-2025 budget, up from the current 53 billion shillings to scale up education bursaries. Members of Parliament have also proposed an increase of £500 million shillings for the National Government Affirmative Action Fund to address the plight of the vulnerable.
We have added monies to NGCDF, as members can see, from 53 billion in this current financial year to 62.9 billion Kenya shillings. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, the parents of Kenya are going to get much more in bursaries. We are going to get much more in infrastructure in our education sector. We are going to get much more boosted infrastructure in our security sector, which is the domain of NGCDF. We have also added fresh money that was not there before. Monies for GAF, Honorable Speaker, we have added £500 million Kenya shillings, monies that will go into boosting the kitty that does a lot of things, and especially social interventions in our counties.
Now let's take you to West Pokot, where our reporter O'Brien Kimani has an interview for us on the Weiwei irrigation scheme. O'Brien?
Stand by. You're on the split screen.
O'Brien Kimani?
4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much indeed, Cyhthia and Nyamai. That's right, we are in the beautiful and scenic county of West Pokot. I'm talking about almost 470 kilometers north of Nairobi. We were here last month where President William Ruto was launching the Semtex Sebit cement at a place called Ortum, another beautiful place. And here we are now at Weiwei Irrigation Scheme. This is a project owned by the Kerio Valley Development Authority, an authority that is now celebrating its 43rd anniversary. It has been involved in a number of socio-economic projects that are aimed at lifting the livelihood of people in 6 counties. What are these counties? The Managing Director, this is Simon Aporos, is joining us here tonight. He is going to take us through the work of Kerio Valley Development Authority in the past, the present, and of course in the future. And something else, he will also be taking us to school just to remind us the grafting process. Yeah, I'll be taking you back to your science classroom. And as you can see, I have 3 types of mango seedlings, and they all look different. And it is true, they're different. Simon Apollos, thank you very much indeed for finding time to be with us here under these, what type of tree is this?
I may not know the name.
But all we know
Okay. It's a beautiful tree.
Please take us through what KVDA has managed to achieve in the last 43 years of the institution.
Thank you, Brian, for having me. My name is Simon Aporos, the Managing Director of Kerio Valley Development Authority, and I'm excited to be here. Just an overview of KVDA as an institution. It was established in 1979, as you rightly put it. And we are in 4 focal areas. 1, food security, and that's where we are today at Weiwei Irrigation Scheme. We are in water supply, water security, environmental conservation, and value addition. Those are the main core components that KVDA is doing in this particular space, improving the lives of people in this region.
Mm-hmm. Yesterday we visited one of your food security projects. This is Napu irrigation scheme. Today we are at a fruit seedling center. Tell us more about Weiwei irrigation scheme, when it was started, the intentions of setting up this project, and whether you have managed to achieve the original intentions of Weiwei.
Thank you, O'Brien. KVDA in food security space, we have about 5 irrigation schemes that we are currently implementing. One from the lowest is Kamsuet in Marakwet West. We have Aror, Chepkum, Weiwei and Napo, which you visited yesterday. And specifically, this is a life transforming programs because this is a pastoral area, and most of the time it is affected by severe drought. But establishment of these specific irrigation schemes has made this region a food basket, or rather a bread basket in this particular region. And to speak specifically of Weiwei, it is about 1,200 acres of land. And this particular region, again to say, it is endowed with the major rivers. Just to begin, we have the Takwel, we have Murunyi, we have Weiwei, which is about 500 meters from here. We have Lomut, and then Emboput, Aror, and River Kimwere. So they are big rivers, this particular region. And we have a potential of about 5 million hectares that are available for irrigation in this particular region. 5 million hectares that are available for irrigation in this particular region. And to focus...
And how much of that is under irrigation now?
Now we have about 2,000 hectares. If I put 2,000 hectares, if I put all the irrigation together, but this one specifically is 1,200, and it's supporting 600 families in this particular region. And I'm telling you, it's amazing in terms of the economical transformation that is brought in this particular region. It's about food security, it's about livelihood, it's about employment, it's about nutrition in this particular region. And last financial year alone, this particular scheme was able to get about 80 million. Farmers were able to get about 80 million of Kenya shillings going to the pockets of farmers. So it's a multiplier effect. And as I said earlier, it's a food basket, a bread basket for this particular region. You mentioned Kacheliba, Kapenguria, all the way to Lodwar. They rely on this particular scheme for their supplies of fresh vegetables and mainly the maize seed that goes to Kenya Seed. We are also among the largest suppliers of certified seed to Kenya Seed.
To Kenya Seeds?
Yes.
You've talked about 5 million hectares.
Yes, hectares.
Of land that the rivers around here are capable of supporting.
Indeed.
And out of these, we have only managed to put about 2,000 acres.
Yes.
And this is largely has been done by KVD.
Right.
You have the county government and you have other institutions. Are there collaborative efforts to ensure that more space is put under irrigation in this county?
One, I can mention that National Irrigation Authority has a number of small irrigation schemes. They are supporting smallholder farmers. And now we have about 1,000 hectares that we want to put under edible oils. You know that that's a big problem, and Kenya is a net importer of seeds, specifically for oil. And we want to put 1,000 hectares. So indeed, there's collaboration between different arms of government, AFA, National Irrigation, and others, just to ensure that we put as many land as possible, hectares as possible, under food production. And I can tell you, the Kerio Valley alone is able to feed this country because on its own is able to feed this country. Because one, we have a great climatical condition in terms of very good weather and the supply of water throughout the year from the 6 major rivers in this particular emanating from Charangani ecosystem. Yeah.
And I like the fact that you're saying, and I went there during the day, and I saw the beautiful Weiwei River surrounded by the sprawling hills in this place. The question is this: why is West Pokot County one of the poorest regions in Kenya, despite all these immense natural wealth lying in this county?
I totally believe that one, it may not be the poorest because it's among. I know that specifically the upper part, the high ecological zone, that is Kapenguria, Pokot South, they are well endowed. That's where Charangani is, and bordering Trans Nzoia. There are very good crops around here. But the places that are affected mostly it is Mosol. This probably now bordering Mosol, Sigor constituency, and Kacheliba. Where we are. Those are the most dry areas. And the two irrigation scheme. We also have an irrigation scheme in Lomut. Lomut is about 30 kilometers from here, which we are also putting an additional 250 hectares under food production. So I think with the exploration of the use of these major rivers for irrigation purposes, the use of food insecurity and poverty will be, I think, of the past in this region. I can tell you that for a fact.
Tell me this, I mean, as KVDA, you've managed to put about 2,000 acres under irrigation in West Pokot County. Can you do more?
Indeed, with the adequate resources, and I already mentioned that in the coming financial year, we have one in Samburu, in an area called Tum. We want to support...
No, I'm talking about, here in West Pokot.
Yes, in West Pokot, still, we still have, I spoke about the 1,000 hectares and edible oil specifically for production of edible seeds in this particular region, and expansion of Lomut by an additional 300 hectares. That's something that the government, His Excellency Ruto, has already provided resources that we are able to expand those specific irrigation schemes. And I can tell you that even the phase 3 of this particular way is almost 70%. And farmers has already moved in, but we are yet fully to operationalize. When we fully operationalize, then you will be able to increase the tonnage of the cereals by an additional 1.5 million tons. Yes.
Apart from mangoes, what else can be produced out of this county?
We have a lot of citrus fruits does very well. And I said earlier, yes, it's oranges and lemon, and we are propagating the same in these particular nurseries. One, it's also very important to mention that KVDA is one of the largest producers, if not the leading producer, of fruit seedlings. Why? We are focusing on agroforestry in this particular part of the country because it has very good water, and at the same time, the climatical condition is very, very suitable for the sweetest of the mangoes and the sweetest of the citrus that can be found. And watermelon at the same time.
And even pawpaws.
Pawpaws does very well within the Kerio Valley. Very well, very well, very well.
Also tell me about dragon fruits. Can they do better here?
We have not tried dragon fruit. That's an area that we require to venture. What I need to mention is that we are collaborating with the counties KVDA to propagate 1 million coffee seedlings because the larger part of Kerio Valley, we know the valley where probably is hot with a lot of water, but there are also some parts of Kerio Valley that is highlands. And you are thinking of the larger part of Cherangani up to Ravine is suitable for coffee. So we are collaborating with the counties in those particular areas so that we also produce coffee seedlings, which is a challenge in terms of trade, so that it's able to do one, conservation efforts, income, and at the same time, we use it now as a source of conservation, plan for conservation.
Naporos, I know you tell me about resources here, but candidly speaking, I want to hear from you. What kind of resources do you need to put 10,000 acres of land under irrigation here in West Pokot County?
We require probably in excess of 1.5 billion. 1.5 billion. And I can tell you the government also has planned under the lower Takwel irrigation scheme, which I believe that we'll be able to visit tomorrow and see that particular expansive area. We have about 10,000 hectares that's available for irrigation. And that's something that we are discussing with the presidency on how we can undertake through PPP, because that's an expensive affair in terms of putting such a land. But it's doable, and it will be able to cure all our food needs within the larger ASALs counties, the 23 ASAL counties.
So you need about 1.5 billion.
1.5 billion.
We'll be able to springboard you to another level.
Yes, to another level.
You're also working with farmers.
Indeed.
How are you doing this?
We have registered a number of cooperatives all the way within the valley. Where we have irrigation schemes, we have a number of cooperative schemes. Where we have the factories, because you have not mentioned about the factories for production of different products, we have cooperatives that supply to those factories. So specifically, we have the stakeholders, now the smallholder farmers, which is households, each one owning a module of 2 acres per family, and they register into a cooperative. Now from those cooperatives, they are able to organize themselves, and I think this is among the most organized cooperatives in this country. They are found in this particular region in the country.
Let's now come to the classroom. I want you to take us through the different meanings of these 3 mango seedlings. Let's start with this. Let's call it
rootstock.
Seedling A.
Yeah, that is rootstock.
This one here.
Yes, the seed is obtained from a tree. You have eaten a mango and disposed it. We collect and we pay the farmers to collect for us. It's about 3 shillings. One is about 3 shillings. Just a normal seed. Then it goes through a process then planted. Now from the rootstock, we have a seed now that is grafted. Now, grafting now, there are different kind of grafting that goes, and now this is the final product that goes to the shamba or to the place at the orchard. And I can tell you is that this one specifically, they mature early and the high quality. The grafted one is able to take 3.5 years to 4 years. Then you have ready mangoes for sale.
Do they taste different?
They're different that the taste. Apple mango is among the best, and is preferred, the grafted one. The grafted one. Of course, you may realize that for factory, probably you visit our factories, you find that the preference is the indigenous one. The indigenous one, in terms of juices, they're the best.
Very good.
Yeah, yeah.
We could go on and on and on, but unfortunately on TV, time has never been enough.
Thank you.
But I'm sure we have said enough.
It is.
Samina Poros, thank you very much indeed for finding time to be with us here in Weiwei at this time of the night.
Pleasure is ours, Brian, and we can't wait for you to be back and to see what farmers, a transformational program that government is doing in this part of the country.
I can
And
tell
the
you
pleasure
this
is
for
ours.
free.
Thank you.
We'll keep on coming back.
Thank you. I
very
appreciate
much.
it.
I mean, we've been talking to Samina Poros. He's the Managing Director of Kerio Valley Development Authority, trying to explain to us what KVDA is doing to uplift the socio-economic environment of the 6 counties where they operate. And remember, it also has a bigger mandate. It is part of government's effort or vehicle that is going to be used to help in the planting of 15 billion trees. We are in Sigoro constituency. This is in West Pokot County, and we are at Weiwei Irrigation Scheme. O'Brien Kimani is my name. We are camping here in the county of West Pokot. We'll be giving you more information about this place so that you get to know it better. But for now, we're taking you back to Broadcasting House for the continuation of the 9 p.m. bulletin. Back to you, Cyhthia Nyamai.
Thank you, Brian. He's just taken us even through some of the opportunities in West Pokot. Now, Kenyans should purchase pharmaceutical products from accredited retail outlet, as common drugs are among the most counterfeited goods. The Anti-Counterfeit Authority Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Robin Njoroge, says counterfeit drugs are a concern since they have a direct impact on human health.
Anti-Counterfeit Authority has confiscated counterfeit goods worth 751.5 million shillings since July last year as it steps up surveillance efforts. The regulator says among the most counterfeited goods are footwear, apparel and clothing that constitute 38% of the confiscated goods.
The first one is footwear, apparel and clothing. These constitute about 38% of all the goods that we have seized since the formation of the Anti-Counterfeit Authority.
However, Dr. Njoroge says counterfeit pharmaceuticals are a major challenge as consignment of some essential drugs such as Postina 2 find their way into the Kenyan market.
You can imagine the impact they have when somebody consumes something like a P2 and yet it's a counterfeit. The consequences are serious, even to the user herself.
Electrical and electronic goods are the second most illicit traded goods.
This building where we are, it has got some faulty electrical appliances or even electrical wires. There is likelihood of fires gutting down the entire building. There is the risk of loss of investment for the people who are residing in such houses.
The Anti-Counterfeit Authority says it needs additional budgetary allocations for recruiting personnel and open regional offices in each county to boost surveillance. Benson Rioba reporting for Prime Edition.
After working for a non-governmental organization as a sales representative for 2 years, 35-year-old Humphrey Limure released a gap in the urgent delivery of parcel services like tender documents. And that is how he conceived a business idea that would later give birth to Impala Couriers. Our reporter Ian Musa spent some time with the budding entrepreneur and filed the following report on tonight's Young and Industrious.
The earliest record of goods being transported hails back to 2400 BC in ancient Egypt, where the couriers delivered stone documents and building materials for the pyramids. In ancient Greece, messengers reigned by foot to deliver items and announce great victories. One such courier participated in the Battle of Marathon in 490 BC. Post-victory, he ran the 26 miles to Athens to announce the incredible victory and died from exhaustion en route. This tale sparked the idea for the famous Olympic marathon race. Our race, however, stopped after a 20-minute drive to Humphrey Lumira's workplace at Westlands along Westlands Road. We arrive at the Impala Courier's offices where all the operation and logistics is done, and takes us through the organization's journey from it being an idea from his lecturer back in 2016 while still in college.
Our lecturer told us that when you sit here, you look outside, you can see so many opportunities which you can explore. And then from there I came up with the idea because I saw those people who work in offices, they don't have time to go and run their errands.
Clients usually place an order, then a delivery motorbike rider dispatches the delivery to the targeted recipient, a process that takes less than an hour within Nairobi and its environs, depending on the distance covered. On arrival, the client receives a call or notification message from the communication team.
I'm the contact person. I contact the rider. I dispatch one of my riders to the specific place. Then once he picks, he delivers to the point from point A to point B. And then in that process, we need to keep on updating the client on the progress.
Most of the motor riders are known for being rough and not adhering to traffic rules. For Humphrey's team, however, each rider must undergo an internal training and have all the required documentation as required in the Traffic Act. We follow the rider to the delivery destination to get a glimpse of the delivery process. Though challenges such as traffic and punctures may cause delay,
okay, sometimes there are a bit of, complaints there and there, but the good things are more than the complaints.
The receiving company director confirms how effective and helpful they come through in delivering of parcels, letters, and official documents that need dispatching urgently.
We find him very satisfactory. The services are good for us. He doesn't have any delays. He works well for us.
With 4 employees, 3 riders, and 1 driver currently, Humphrey's vision is not only to be the preferred partner of choice for courier and logistics solutions in East Africa, but also the entire globe as well.
Always they admire like DHL. They do worldwide deliveries. So I'm seeing Impala maybe in the next 15 years. Who knows? We might be here 2024. In 2034, maybe it will be a totally different thing.
Lumira's business is a call to action to all young people out there to come up with the ideas while still young and implement them. Reporting for Young and Industrious, I'm Ian Muse.
You've got to love the dreams and ambitions of Kenyan youth. Humphrey is already thinking of going multinational. Now, Kenyan firms need to establish platforms for students to nurture their innovative solutions for enhanced productivity and creation of job opportunities. Maastricht School of Management Senior Project Consultant Professor Julius Gatune says the integration of industry challenges into academic curriculum ensures that students are well-versed both in knowledge and adept at applying in practical settings.
Most employers have expressed concerns that fresh graduates, though academically accomplished, often lack the practical skills necessary to perform duties at the workplace, necessitating additional training and development upon entering the job market. Academia and industry players have now joined hands through the Kenya Industry and Entrepreneurship Project under the Ministry of Trade and Industry to enhance productivity through a student-centric open innovation approach.
This is the idea is we want to solve that problem, to make education relevant, and most importantly, to make education relevant to Kenyan problems. Because yes, we can solve problems. We have engineering students who can solve very big problems.
The opportunity presented here brings some short-term, medium-term and long-term opportunities, and those are the things we need to sort of explore.
The E-Tatu initiative, with support from the World Bank, provides mentorship and facilitates innovation challenges identified by companies. Student teams are equipped with problem-solving skills and get an opportunity to apply their academic knowledge to real-world industry problems.
This is an opportunity to leverage resource that exists in students in bridging a very strong link to academia, which is a model that has been proven to work elsewhere, being able to grow your research and innovation by working with academia.
They have become motivated themselves and they have come with their own innovation without even involving a company. For example, one group did come up with an incubator for eggs using geothermal energy.
I didn't have opportunities or didn't know how to go about it or where to start, but iTatu has given me that platform. Now I've been working on different projects in my school.
They now want academic training aligned with industry needs. Trevor Ngendo for Prime Edition.
ICT Security and Audit Control Secretary Emmanuel Kimeu says digital hubs and hackathon events are training grounds for the youth to sharpen skills in blockchain, artificial intelligence and crypto technologies. Here's Alan Auko with the details for you.
Kenya ranks third in Africa behind Nigeria and South Africa in blockchain adoption. The government wants to leverage on the growing demand for blockchain, artificial intelligence and crypto to create jobs.
By participating in events like these, workshops and hackathons, we're motivating the youth. And also through organizations, government organizations like the National Youth Research Fund, we're able to fund hackathons and competitive events to be able to scale up and mentor the youth so that they can take up the jobs.
Despite this, Kenya is yet to have in place regulations for the use of blockchain and crypto technologies, which have applications in several sectors.
Kenya is midway because at least there is a bill that has been tabled in front of a parliamentary committee, and beyond that there is also engagement from the National Treasury that has set up a multi-agency task force to regulate digital assets in the country.
We have seen in the last 10 years that on the crypto space in particular, there have been some bad actors, and that is the case for any new technology that comes into the market. If there's money to be made, you will have some bad actors coming in, which means, yes, we do need some regulatory guardrails.
As an example of the prudent use of these technologies, some counties are looking to pioneer blockchain technology in delivery of services.
As just like yesterday, we had a group of youth, a hackathon, on different people bringing their ideas on how we can help improve our services to Nairobians using technology and making it easier from end to end, from the government to the actual citizen.
Currently, Kenya is working on new regulations such as the proposed cryptocurrency bill, aiming to protect consumers by establishing a consumer protection framework. Alan Auko, Prime Edition.
Asanteni sana kwa kuwezesha Loto Moto kuwafikia wengi wasiojiweza kupitia *570#. Hapo umewafuta wengi machozi, umewaelimisha, umewapa makao, umewapa lishe na umewapa matibabu kwa namna tofauti. Asanteni.
Asanteni. Asanteni sana.
Na kwako wewe mchezaji wa Lotomoto, unajipa fursa ya kujishindia Probox nayo. Na kama Probox haikufai na umejishindia, tunakupa taslim 750,000 Kenyan shillings na mshindi namtangaza 30th of June. Na mwezi wa July 28th namtangaza mshindi wa Demio nayo. Na kama utaki na umeshinda, wacha gari, chukua chapa 750,000 Kenyan shillings kwenye *570 hash. Wewe si mshindi tu, wewe ni tegemeo kubwa. Tusaidie na tushinde.
Qualifying for the 2026 FIFA World Cup.
Mwezi huu chungu limealika ukoko. Tumekuandalia michuano ya kufuzu katika kombe la dunia mwaka 2026 barani Afrika. Kenya itamenyana na Burundi tarehe 7 Juni saa 10 alasiri. Kabla ya kuiandaa Cote d'Ivoire tarehe 11 Juni saa 10 alasiri. Tizama mechi hizi moja kwa moja katika KBC Channel 1 kutoka uga wa Bingu mjini Lilongwe, Malawi. Kadhalika utachambuliwa na kupata habari za mechi nyingine wakati wa kinyang'anyiro hiki. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Kikohozi cha muda wowote, kutokwa na jasho kwa wingi usiku, uchungu kwenye kifua, afya kudhoofika, tafuta matibabu.
Unataka kunijoin katika hii business ya ukulima?
Mimi nataka kuenjoy lifestyle kama yako.
Nimepoteza customer wengi.
Kweli pesa inaweza fanya watu wafanye mambo.
Wanapita cha ufala bana. Sasa una make sure tu wakuone ukiingia na ukitoka, alafu unafunga nje.
Serikali iko na mkono refu, itakupata tu.
Tibiwa ishi poa.
Welcome back. Rusinga Island is Homa Bay County is home to 369 species of local and also migratory birds. According to the Kenya Tourism Board, a majority of the birds of Rusinga are not found elsewhere in Kenya. The birds feed mostly on fish from Lake Victoria and put up on exotic trees, creating an atmosphere of serenity for tourists, as highlighted on this week's episode of Magical Scenes.
The morning hours in Rusinga are mostly cool and refreshing. One may not want to transit into an afternoon, especially after waking up to the soothing chopping of birds. From the fish eagle to elusive double-toothed barbets, as well as sandbirds and kingfishers, Rusinga is simply among the best when it comes to a bird lover's paradise. The Rusinga Island holds up to 369 bird species. At Rusinga Island, the birds' concentration is thickest at sunset when they return to roost. The 16-kilometer-long island lies on the eastern stretch of Lake Victoria, with most of the birds feeding on the fish from the lake. The island, also known as a breeding ground for many of the bird species, has birds perched on trees basking in the sun, if not fishing, or just frolicking in the water. One of the most favorite birds to repeat clients here is the fish eagle. The bird holds cultural significance in many African communities. It is often a symbol of power, strength, and freedom. The African fish eagle has a dark body and a white head, with the females being larger than males. The eagles are considered among the top predators, and their fishing tactics are arguably mesmerizing. The little white egrets, on the other hand, are known for their distinct features. The egret is nomadic, depending on water levels in wetlands, and migratory too. The African jacana, also famous at the Rusinga Island, has long toes and long claws that enables it to walk on floating vegetation in shallow lakes, which turns out to be its preferred habitat.
And I actually like the place because of the nature and the cooling effect of the water. Yep. It's a beautiful place, and the lake is also a source of livelihood for a lot of people around.
Wageni wakija hapa watapata kama manufaa ya huu barini na manufaa ya huu kanti ni ubora zaidi. Kwani tuko na mahoteli nyingi, zingine ziko pale, zingine ziko pale, zingine ziko hata kwa visiwa za huku ndani.
The beautiful Rusinga Island also has attractive beaches on the shores of Lake Victoria, which can hardly go unnoticed. Irene Mchuma Odin, Marge Cole Saints, and Rusinga, the county of Homa Bay.
National Treasury and Economic Planning Ministry is calling for commitment to the country's population program for sustainable development. Cabinet Secretary Professor Njuguna Ndungu says population issues are central to economic development.
The National Population Policy for Sustainable Development was launched today with the Ministry of National Treasury and Economic Planning expressing concerns on addressing its use of population growth to match the income growth. Professor Ndungu says failure to address these magnifies development challenges.
The opportunities are for accelerating economic growth as the increased share of the population in the working age increases, because it can support an accelerated rise in income per capita. But if if we do not do that, then it means that it will be a dependency ratio that increases, especially with the young population.
The Kenya National Population Policy for Sustainable Development seeks to address 7 broad areas, namely population size, growth and age structure, fertility, morbidity and mortality, mobility, migration and urbanization, population, human settlement, environment and disasters, data, research and innovation, and resource mobilization.
Regionally, NCBD shares the Regional Population Council networks for partners in population and development that provides South Cooperation platform for exchange of knowledge, expertise and innovation to improve population development and implementation.
We have to invest differently, invest in educating them, invest in providing healthcare services, but also invest in creating jobs, because these people are a big chunk of our population that can actually drive our economy.
The policy recommends an investment in population, cutting-edge research, innovation and technology for growth and strengthening the linkage between data users and producers at all levels.
As we look forward to the period beyond ICPD 30 and Sustainable Development Agenda, this policy should be taken as a transition policy that will take the Kenya Population Program into the next development dispensation.
In 2020, when the world was in lockdown due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Kevin Omondi, then 22 years, lost his job as a teacher. He had just been employed fresh from campus. This would be the start of his journey as a publisher, as he founded African Ink Publishers. Despite numerous challenges, 4 years later, the mathematics and science trained teacher is now an established publisher. Ben Troy Njue paid him a visit at his office on Kenyatta Road in Juja and filed the following report.
Famous Kenyan author Ngugi wa Thiong'o was the first East African to publish his novel back in 1964 titled Weep Not Child, and from there, many writers and publishers have since mushroomed. Just 20 kilometers from the capital Nairobi, along Kenyatta Road in Juja, Kiambu County, we meet with one budding publisher, Kevin Omondi Otieno, the founder and CEO of publishing firm African Ink Publishers. In 2020, during the COVID-19 lockdown, when many businesses were shutting down, Kevin, then just 22 years old, decided to follow his dream and passion and open a publishing company.
During the COVID-19, our job came to an abrupt end, and therefore I decided to follow my passion, and that is why I started to venture and to concentrate on publishing books.
Kevin takes us through his 4-year publishing journey.
Initially, I started writing, but the process of publishing a book became difficult. I remember there was a time whereby a publisher demanded over 120 Kenyan shillings, which was a huge amount to me, and therefore I decided to do further research on how I can become a publisher so that I can help other writers to publish their books.
As a publisher, how is the publishing process, including the distribution stages?
The first step is to write, and then after you've written your work, you type.
The manuscript?
Yeah. After you type, it becomes a manuscript, and then you submit to the publisher for evaluation. Yeah, we have a different type of publishing process. Now, depending with our agreement, if it is traditional publishing, we will be able to publish at our cost, distribute, and pay royalties. But for a case whereby you have decided as a writer to take hybrid publishing, it is upon you to incur the cost involved, and then we guide you on how you can market or distribute your books.
The firm is a hive of activity, with workers seamlessly handling the huge bulk of printing materials, while others edit manuscript for final output. He notes with concern the poor reading culture in the country, which he says can be boosted by ebooks and social media.
Currently, we are doing what is called incorporating digital to publishing industry, whereby we are trying to embrace ebooks.
His advice to young budding publishers:
we have a huge gap between writers and publishers, and I still feel like we need more publishers, because you see, when we have a lot of publishers, they will be able to attract more writers, and then we will be able to work as a team or even partner, and then we will be able to revive African readership.
Kevin adds that he has a passion for telling African stories to maintain our identity as Africans, noting that romantic novels are one of the most published books by his company. His biggest milestone was publishing 15 books of fiction written by former Finance Minister Ambassador Dr. Robinson Njeru Githai. Looking at the well-stocked bookshelves, one can't help but marvel at the literature Kenyans have penned for future generations.
I always believe that everyone can become best at what they do, irrespective of their industry or even the level. We all have equal opportunity, equal chances, and we all can achieve our desires.
Well, we had a story earlier on who are some of the biggest gainers when it comes to this year budget. We're going to have the budget reading next week. We're going to have a debate and just get to hear from analysts with Dr. Alex Kamau, member of ISPAC, and also Alex Kanyi, partner at CDH Kenya. Let me first get from you, Dr. Alex.
Yes.
What is your overview opinion?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. My overview opinion is that we have focused so much on debt repayment.
Yes.
Because actually the debt repayment is getting the lion's share of the budget.
Yes.
And we are doing that at the expense of other essential services, like the budget for education sector has been cut.
Yes.
The healthcare budget has been cut.
Yes.
We see also social services budget being cut.
Yes.
So basically, it's a very tough situation because the government, the fiscal space for the government is very limited.
Yes.
And therefore, we are likely to have a very tough year ahead.
Yes.
Because we are likely to see the government continue to overborrow domestically.
Yes.
And therefore, that will increase inflation. Interest rates are likely to go up. So I think it's a matter of advising Kenyans to really tighten their belt, as the president keeps saying.
Yes.
Yes.
But even as you say tighten belts, then Kenyans are also wondering, because even as you look at it, you'll see there's an increase in expenditure. As we tell Kenyans tighten belts, which is normal, then why doesn't the government also have that option of tightening belt?
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
And we see the government preaching water,
yes,
but taking wine, because even as at March this year, the budget that was allocated to something like State House was actually over surpassed.
Yes.
And that's why eventually we saw the government, the initial budget for 2023-2024 was 3.6 trillion.
Yes.
But by the time they were passing the supplementary budget too,
yes,
they had shot it to about 3.8 trillion.
Yes.
So it's a matter of government saying this, but again, them doing something different.
Yes. Alex Kanye, there has been concern by the public on high cost of living, rate of employment. Does it look like the government is responding to the people's concern?
Well, I don't think so. But perhaps my colleague, Dr. Kamau, could be speaking about it.
Yes, he's touched a little bit on it. And when it comes to expenditure, we've seen expenditure increase.
Yes.
And the government just keeps on talking about if there is expenditure increase, then of course there's going to be increase then of tax.
Yes.
And Kenyans are asking, are there no other options apart from increasing tax and burdening wananchi?
Yes, and I think the main reason why we are seeing the expenditure continue to increase is because of something like a wage bill. And the wage bill, we saw like in 2014, that time the number of parastatals were 287.
Yes.
And there is a presidential working paper that was done, and it was proposed that parastatals to be reduced by 70 parastatals to be either to be scrapped out or to be merged with others.
Yes.
But what we have seen over the years is that the government has continued to increase more parastatals. As we speak today,
yes,
the number of parastatals are about 349. And so you'll see most of the parastatals are doing the same thing.
Yes.
There's duplications,
yes,
of duties and responsibilities. So I think unless now the government takes that hard decision to reduce the number of parastatals and therefore contain the wage bill, we will continue to see the wage bill taking the lion's share of the revenue collected.
Yes.
Because as per the Constitution of Kenya, the wage bill is not supposed to be allocated more than that 5%.
Yes.
But now we see it is actually at 49%. And that's the discussion that we saw that other day when the president had the wage bill conference at Bomas of Kenya.
Yes.
And they were asking the hard question. The question is, every other president who has gone before him always say that they will manage the wage bill.
Yes.
But it seems no one has the...
It keeps on increasing.
It keeps on increasing.
It's of great concern.
Yes.
And one of the other concerns that even we saw came up in Parliament earlier is the low allocation of devolved functions such as health. For you, what would you say are some of also the other areas of great concern, especially when it comes to allocation?
Yeah, when it comes to allocation, I was concerned about like the reduction of the school feeding program,
yes,
whereby a budget of 4.9 billion has been scrapped out. And that 4.9 billion, the impact, because the government should really prioritize on high impact projects, like that one was a high impact project,
yes,
because children in ASAL areas, like West Pokot, Baringo, they actually, the school population had almost doubled since the school
yes,
feeding program was initiated.
Yes.
But now, removing that from the budget, now we are going to reverse the gains that we had achieved,
yes,
and that will have negative repercussions to the well-being of the country in some years to come.
And that's the thing.
Yes.
That's the thing. It's in a few years to
Yes,
come. It's
yes,
more of long term.
Yes, yes.
Perhaps could the government be thinking, let's see where the low-hanging fruits are and where we can get some of the short-term benefits. Could that also be part of the reason, and allocate where likely maybe we're going to see great changes in our economy in the next 3 months? Could that be the reason why?
It could be the reason, but again, the civilization of a country or a nation,
yes,
it is seen by how it treats the most vulnerable people in the society. So children, elderly, because actually when you talk about the social services, we see the pension being delayed to the elderly. And even the issue of we say like what we call the pending bills.
Yes.
So basically, instead of the government prioritizing how to pay the people who they owe in the private sector, so that money can come back to the economy and start being circulated, so
yes,
that it can spur economic growth. We are seeing the government not being very keen on that.
Yes, yes. And for you, Alex Kanye, I read I was looking at the CDH report and just the analysis, and there was a suggestion of reducing the excise duty rate for money transfer, and we have seen that actually the CS has suggested an increase. Why did you highlight, or rather whoever wrote the report highlight when it comes to payment service providers and also cell phone?
I think all over the world, Kenya is celebrated because of how we use mobile money transfer services. And it's coming at a time when also Kenyans are perhaps stretched in terms of what they have in their pockets.
Yes.
So to me, I see the reason why government would target, because you're looking at the volumes that are being pushed on those money transfer services, yes, and perhaps it's an easy way to collect, because you also ensure that the telco has the burden to collect. So it is easy money to collect as well.
Yes.
But then to increase the rate of excise duty currently from 15% to 20%, and we started at way lower rate.
Yes.
I think it's coming at a wrong time, because there are other counterproductive measures within the Finance Bill 2024,
yes,
which then limit how much is left to someone who is making little money. So I think that's the reason why we're proposing we maintain it, because the reduction to around 15% was only done, recently.
Yes.
So to increase immediately to 20%,
yes,
it looks like we are not too sure in terms of our tax policy and what we want to achieve.
And that's the thing. Some of the things you see, there is maybe a reduction, and then later, even when it comes to save and fuel, there's a reduction. And even when you look at the budget last year, some things where we saw reductions, it's different in this year. And you begin to wonder, is there a long-term plan? Why is it that, or are people just experimenting that perhaps this can work, and then if they feel like, no, this might not work, let's try another area? Does it feel like there is a long-term plan when it comes to our economy and even improving our economy?
From a tax side, there is the long-term plan.
Yes.
For once, we now have a medium-term revenue strategy, so that we are clear as to what sectors we are targeting, and also what measures the Revenue Authority will have to implement to ensure that we get consistent tax revenues. So that is there.
Yes.
From 2024, 2025 to around 2027. Then you have the national tax policy as well, which was released just the other day. It's been a draft for some time, and now we hope we have the final thing. It also kind of talks to the government plan to not only ensure that we increase the tax base, but also ensure that we have a predictable tax environment, especially for investors. So we see that as something that is positive. On the budget side, not too sure what we are planning, especially around our expenditure. But my major concern is that we plan to spend without thinking about where the money will come from. I tend to think that is the way we are doing it. And the reason for that is you have your, say, 2023-2024 year, which ends in June. And as at April, we had collected 1.7 trillion vis-a-vis target of about 2.4 trillion. Basically, we are going to land at a deficit. And then someone then says we are going to collect 3.4 trillion 2024-2025. When you haven't even crossed 2.5, or you won't cross 2.5 trillion in the previous year. Where is this money coming from? Which ties to what now Dr. Kamau is saying, that there will be a lot of borrowing to come if we insist on going through the budget as it is. And that doesn't mean well.
Just, you mentioned a bit, but I just want you to go a bit further, even from what he's saying, that it looks like we plan to spend without knowing where this money will come from. And that tells me that the money will come from us, more taxation, and then unfortunately also borrowing. Give us a prediction of how this year is likely to look like, with that in mind. If we're forced to borrow more than even the amounts that we have borrowed now, how is it going to look like for Kenyans?
It's a good question. Actually, as my colleague Alex has said, the problem is that we plan to spend what we have not earned. And when we plan for revenue, we also employ very ambitious and aggressive strategies. Because if last year, the year that is going to end by June this year, the financial year for the government, we had planned to collect about 2.9 trillion. But we are very far away from hitting that target.
In fact, we reduced it to 2.4 trillion when we discovered perhaps 2.9 was too ambitious.
So I think what will happen is that the government will continue to borrow heavily, and if it is not able to really get financing from borrowing, what happens is that the development agenda or budget is the one that gets a hit, because the recurrent expenditure every other time it has to be paid, and also the CFS consolidated fund service, which contains the debt servicing and also the amount of money that we pay to pensioners. So every other time there's a shortage in funding, the portion of the budget that gets the hit is the development budget. And for a country to grow, the only way to grow is by being by investing so much in the infrastructure, which is part of the developmental budget. So we are likely to see the debt levels increasing at a higher rate compared to the level the country is growing at. And it is very sad that right now we might say the inflation is low, but it is only low because the CBR rate is very high at 13%. So if the CBR was to come down, then we would see inflation going up. And because the CBR rate is very high, also the cost of borrowing is very high. And that's what they are doing, is crowding out the private sector. And by continuing to borrow at high interest rates in terms of the treasury bonds, is basically what they are doing is to kick the can down the road. And the that effect will continue to snowball to a point that we may start facing debt sustainability issues.
Basically giving someone else an excuse to tell us we inherited a lot of debt, and therefore we have to find ways to raise the revenue. So basically you borrow long term, plan maybe you're out of government in the next 10 years. And then the next guys will be saying, this is what we inherited.
They'll come and tell us the same stories.
And then at the same time as they campaign, they also tell us we will not borrow. And then in like 2 years into the government, then we are shocked. How did our debt burden get to this level? And it's quite interesting to see what is happening. And I think it's time we had a more focused discussion around the budget. So that we are clear and say, this is what as a country we're able to afford. We try to reduce wastage, like Dr. Alex is saying, we try merge some entities, we try implement some austerity measures, starting from the top in terms of travel and things like those, so that when we reduce that, then we come to terms with how much we're able to collect, and therefore also plan to borrow less in the years to come. Because as it is right now, it appears like we've planned to borrow more, but it's a story that is not being told.
But do you think that Kenya will eventually get out of this cycle of debt? It comes up, I think the last time we didn't have such a heavy debt burden was during President Kibaki's time, and his budget was actually within what Kenya could actually afford. Are we ever going to get back there? Because every year it seems like the debt just keeps on rising.
We can only get back if we also are realistic in terms of how we are planning to finance our budget. If we are not realistic, definitely it won't get any better.
What signal are we sending to investors? I just saw an article where taxi companies were saying, such as Bolt, was saying that they might not be able to afford taxation in Kenya and might have to take the option of leaving the country. What signals are we sending to investors when they look at even our budget?
A very negative signal, and I want to go back to something that my colleague had mentioned about implementation of the medium-term revenue strategy and the national tax policy. Those documents are there, but they are not being followed. Because like the medium-term revenue strategy was to say that we should be seeing the corporation tax reducing from 30% to around 25%. We should be seeing VAT coming from 16% to 15% and eventually to around 14%. But that is not happening. Even on the issue of the national tax policy, we are supposed to see more stable policies being put in place to guarantee predictability. And that's the kind of the environment that attracts foreign direct investments. But without that kind of an environment, we see the government, for instance, last year they lowered the import declaration levy. Then all of a sudden, a year later, they raised it. So there's a lot of confusion.
So sometimes I'm like, is this docket actually meant for planning? And that's part of that docket. But anyway, from even the proposal, the CS proposal, what's your take on the import declaration fee?
My expectation would have been, could we have a discussion around what is it that informed the reduction of the import declaration fee to about 1.5%?
And the railway development fee.
And the railway development fee. I don't know whether it was 1.5 or 2%. What is it that informed that? And did we meet that objective? Then after we are told this is the result, then we can be explained to in terms of now we are moving from the 2.5 to 3%. And this is the objective as well, because we have learned from the past. So to increase then the import declaration fee without perhaps an explanation as to what is behind it.
Yes.
And to also include other levies depending on what product someone is importing, import and import investment levy, you have your eco levies as well. It is not quite clear to someone who is an investor coming into the country what kind of regime we have. And having acted for some of these international investors, it's a worrying trend because they're asking us, how do I plan for 5 to 7 years when your government is making frequent tax changes every year? It's not quite a predictable space to operate in.
As we come to the end of the interview, my director tells me you only have 1 minute to go. Dr. Alex Kamau, if you were the CS, what would you have done differently?
I would request the top leadership to be very deliberate about fighting corruption, because it is in the public domain that a third of the budget is wasted through corruption. If that hole is sealed, then we are likely to have more efficient and effective budget making processes that would add value to the wealth of the nation.
Yes. And you, Alex, can you?
I guess to me is to look at some of the debts that we already have and see if we are able to restructure those to get maybe cheaper and long-term loans to ensure that the ones that are perhaps very expensive and are pressing us, we get a way around it. We have a lot of dollar-denominated loans, of course, which are exposed to forex changes and etc. So that also increased the debt burden. So that would be one place that they could look at, even as they look at reducing government expenditure.
Yes, thank you so much, gentlemen. I wish we had more time to talk about this, and Kenyans had so many questions, especially when it comes to taxation. But this is a debate that we will continue to have even as we are going to have the budget reading next week. Up next, we have sports with Karen Kibet.
Globally, 90% of all businesses are considered to be either micro, small, or medium enterprises. The situation is no different here in Kenya, where 90% of all jobs are in this critical industry. But in the last 5 years, this industry is facing a serious challenge.
We have over 19 million Kenyans in employment, or rather in employable age, but only 3 million are formally employed. The rest of the 16 million Kenyans are informally employed, largely by MSMEs.
This week on Inside Government, we are talking to the Cabinet Secretary for Cooperatives and SME Development. This is Simon Chelugui. He'll be explaining to us what the government is doing to support this industry. Watch the conversation right here on KBC Channel 1 with me, O'Brien Kimani.
Wiki hii kwenye mkulima tunaangazia jiko la kisasa.
Hii kazi ya inaonekana ya uchafu that's ndio pesa iko hapo. Because mostly watu wengi wa produce hizi vitu.
Kisha tufuge sungura.
Mbali na nyama yake, kinyesi na mikojo yake, sungura ana faida tele kwa mkulima.
Ungana nasi Jumamosi saa 10:30 hapa KBC Channel 1 kwa mseto kamili wa kilimo.
Sports News is brought to you by Mozart Bet.
Thank you for keeping it KBC Prime Edition. Let's now talk sports. My name is Karen Kibet.
Now, defending champions Faith Kipyegon and Emmanuel Korir are among the 170 athletes invited for the Olympic Games trials scheduled between the 14th and 15th of this month at the Nyayo National Stadium.
Kipyegon, who will be defending her Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games title in 1500 meters, will also compete in the 5000 meters trial in a double attempt.
Unbelievable!
In the 12.5-lap race, the double Olympic champion will face stiff competition from two-time world cross-country champion Beatrice Chebet, who will also target to double after punching her 10,000-meter ticket with a world record.
Look at the clock too. It is indeed super fast as Beatrice Chebet takes gold. Rangaruk makes it 1-2 for Kenya. Takes the
Korir, who is yet to hit form this season, will be asked to defend the 800-meter title he won in Tokyo 3 years ago, but will battle fast at the trials against the world silver medalist Emmanuel Wanyonyi, who has been on blistering form, and Olympic silver medalist Ferguson Cheruiyot, among others. Athletics Kenya has clarified that athletes who will be invited to the trials must have complied with the Athletes Integrity Unit of partaking one out of competition.
All the athletes that have already qualified for the Olympics and for the trials to compete, and having a discussion. Some of the all the top athletes were there who were invited. They all came. They all with their coaches, and the discussion is that a coach that has trained an athlete to meet the qualification standards will also be compensated and supported, and that has already been done. NOC has already dispersed the funds to those coaches, and that's why everything is going smoothly now.
In the case there is an athlete who feels that she or he has been left out of this list over here, with the qualifications which we have talked about, that athlete, together with the coach or anybody else, can come directly to my office, competitions office, and we'll be able to sort it out.
Kenyan athletes are targeting to surpass the 10 medals they bagged in the Tokyo Olympic Games: 4 gold, 4 silver, and 2 bronze medals.
Sports Cabinet Secretary Ababu Namwamba has challenged the National Rugby Sevens team Shujaa to a podium finish at this year's Olympic Games in Paris. Ababu predicted Shujaa was primed for success at the July 26th to the August 11th Olympics. Owing to their recent impressive run, Kenya rejoined the World Rugby Sevens series after successfully negotiating the qualification phase that consisted of 3 legs in the Challenger Series and promotion play-off. Namwamba backed Shujaa to maintain their purple patch, promising of government support in their preparations ahead of their 3rd consecutive appearance at the Olympics. Meanwhile, each player in the 13-member squad at the technical bench that beat Germany 33-15 to rejoin the World 7 Series has been awarded 300,000 Kenya shillings. The government presented 5.7 million to the team during a dinner hosted last evening at a Nairobi hotel to honor Shujaa's recent success.
The Sports Cabinet Secretary expressed his confidence in the selection and composition of Shujaa, which ensured that only those who deserved a chance were picked to the national squad.
If there is one sporting discipline that lives up to merit rules, this team has been an exemplification of merit rules.
Head coach Kevin Wambo, who took over from British coach Damian McGrath, successfully guided the team to rejoining the World Series months after he had led them to qualifying for the Olympic Games in Paris.
We had 2 objectives this season. 3/4 of you having not traveled out of the country, being the first time in Kenya Sevens, it takes a lot of tenacity and trust. So for me, I'm just grateful for you guys trusting me, trusting in the system, trusting in the process, giving me that faith to lead you throughout the season.
Ababu predicted Shujaa was primed for success at the July 26th to August 11th Olympics, owing to their recent impressive run. Namwamba backed Shujaa to maintain the purple patch, promising government support in their preparations ahead of their 3rd consecutive appearance at the Olympics.
We'll continue to mobilize resources. We'll continue to join dots and just make sure that everything ticks. Sometimes we drive you a little hard. Sometimes we push you, but it is all for the
Meanwhile, each player in the 13-member squad and the technical bench that beat Germany 33-15 to rejoin the World 7 Series has been awarded 300,000. Meanwhile, each player in the 13-member squad and the technical bench that beat Germany 33-15 to rejoin the World 7 Series has been awarded 300,000 shillings each.
Getting to qualify for the HSBC 7 Series meant quite a lot for each and every individual here. And the boys, it was the other way around. The players were the ones telling us that you guys have done your job, leave this to us. We will guarantee you a good one after the game. And I think they did their job. And that, you know.
Bernard Okumu, Prime Edition Sports.
Thank you, Bernard, for that detailed report. Moving on, defending champions KCB women's volleyball team are eyeing their second league title in a row when the Japhet Munyala-led Chargers face high-flying Kenya Prisons in the Kenya Volleyball Federation League Playoffs Finals, which start tomorrow at Kasarani Indoor Gymnasium. Powerhouse GSU will try to dethrone reigning champions Kenya Prisons in the men's final.
The Bankers, who won the league title last year after a 15-year wait, are keen on extending their impressive run when they face at rivals Kenya Prisons under the tutelage of Baraza. Head coach Japhet Munyala admits it will be a tricky outing for his Chargers as they face a very experienced team.
We are training for the final match of this year's playoffs, this season playoffs, and we are meeting a team that is an experienced team, Kenya Prisons. It's going to be a tough match, but we are preparing well to see us through to win this second playoffs.
The veteran tactician revealed that they are currently working on services, defense and offense.
We are working on our services, we are working on our defense, and we are working on the offense. So far, so good, but we are struggling with the injuries. Our captain has a swollen knee, but we are hopeful that we'll should be there when we start playing these playoffs.
KCB qualified for the finals after an excellent run in the playoffs where they defeated Kenya Army in the quarterfinals before beating DCI in the semi-finals. KCB will face Kenya Prisons in the return fixture on Saturday at the Kasarani Indoor Gymnasium. Former champions GSU will take on reigning Kenyan champions Kenya Prisons in the men's finals.
And that report brings us to the end of the sports news tonight. Do not forget that tomorrow, Harambee Stars will take on Burundi in a crucial 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifier at the Bingu National Stadium in Lilongwe, Malawi. And also they will play Ivory Coast in another qualifier on the 11th of this month in Malawi. And both matches will be broadcasted live on KBC Channel 1 and all our affiliate radio stations from 4 p.m. East African time. I'll see you tomorrow. My name is Karen Kibet. Have yourself a peaceful night. My colleague Cyhthia Nyamai will be back with more. Good night.
Sports News was brought to you by Mozart Bet. You can lift the plane. The higher you fly, the higher your win. The sky is the limit. Mozart Bet.
Well, that's it from me and the rest of the team. We do want to wish you a very good night.
the Mozartbet Cup as teams from both the top tier and lower tier battle for the ultimate prize of representing the country in Africa's CAF Confederations Cup. Catch all the action live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, beginning with a round of 16 matches, the quarter-final, semi-final and the final. Mozartbet Cup, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.